Attendees are coming in now. Okay, that's going.
What are you noticing? Leo, do we have quite a few people left in the waiting room?
All right, the attendees have leveled off. I was making sure that the YouTube live stream was going, and it is. So
Okay.
we are good to start.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to NASD Hybrid Parent Meeting for the elementary level. I am Dr. Williams, the Assistant Superintendent of the Norristown Area School District.
Muy buenas noches, padres. Bienvenidos a la reunión de padres para hablar acerca de el modo híbrido para el regreso de la escuela. Yo soy la doctora Williams, soy la asistente superintendente del Distrito Escolar de Norristown.
And also joining me this evening, I have a few of our elementary principals who will introduce themselves at this time.
Y también tengo a los principales y los directores de algunas escuelas de primaria que ellos van a decir quiénes son en unos segundos.
Hi, everyone. Brooke Vaught here, principal of Hancock Elementary School. Good evening, everybody.
Buenas noches. Yo soy la señora Brooke Vaught. Yo soy la directora. What school did you say again? Sorry.
Hancock Elementary.
Ella es la directora de la escuela de Hancock.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nicole Poncari, the principal at Cole Manor Elementary School. Thank you for coming tonight.
Muy buenas noches. Yo soy la directora de la escuela de Cole Manor. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos esta noche.
Good evening, parents and families. I am Mark Skaczynski, the proud principal of Marshall Street Elementary. Welcome.
Muy buenas noches, padres. Yo soy Mark Skaczynski, soy el director de la escuela de Marshall Street y estamos muy orgullosos de nuestra escuela.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jason Smith, principal of Paul Fly Elementary School. It's great to have you with us tonight.
Muy buenas noches, padres. Yo soy el señor Jason Smith. Yo soy el director de la escuela Paul Fly y muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos hoy.
Thank you and welcome. Leo, if you could advance the slides for me, please. So as you know, here in the Norristown Area School District, we are very, we follow data. We make our decisions based on data. Superintendent Dormer has shared the data that we will use to determine our platform for instruction. So as a reminder, although we are discussing hybrid learning, which would include in-person, we will not transition to any type of in-person learning until we are at low or moderate low. So if you could see here on your screen, if we are at low in the green or moderate low, when it deals with incident rate and positivity rate. because safety is the most important thing to us.
Muy buenas noches y muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos. Nosotros somos un distrito escolar que seguimos los datos. Los datos para nosotros son muy importantes y queríamos recalcar de que para el regreso de la escuela es importante de que al regresar tenemos que estar bajo un promedio que sea bajo o moderado de transmisión. Y no transicionaremos al regreso a la escuela a menos que los datos indiquen que estamos en un promedio bajo o moderado.
And following the data also means that we must have 2 consecutive weeks below the threshold in order to, above the threshold in order to provide full remote, or below the threshold in order to move into the blended or hybrid. So at this moment, we are still in full remote because we are pretty much at substantial. And we have been at substantial for a couple weeks. We will not move to blended learning until we are below the threshold. So data would result in move to, okay? So we're full remote right now. We're not moving to blended until we are below the threshold. Just as a reminder, we have to be within the low or the low moderate in order to move to in-person instruction.
Y siguiendo los datos, eso significa lo siguiente, que vamos a ofrecer un aprendizaje remoto completo. Pero para nosotros estar en un modo híbrido, tenemos que tener 2 semanas consecutivas de datos bajo de los umbrales. Eso daría lugar al regreso de aprendizaje mixto o que se le llama híbrido. Y también queremos recordarles que no podemos regresar a un modo híbrido a menos que tengamos esas 2 semanas consecutivas de datos que están bajos o moderados en el promedio de transmisión.
And again, health and safety will continue to be our priority and commitment.
Y nuevamente, la seguridad y la salud de todos es nuestra prioridad como distrito.
Okay, if we are to return to in-person, we will have a phased approach. Wave 1, we will bring in our highest needs special ed students. And this, as a reminder, we will have a special ed parent meeting on Monday from 6 to 7. Wave 2, again, our supplemental support special ed. Wave 3, our students in transition. That would include our kindergartners at our elementary level, our 5th graders at our middle school level, and our 9th graders at our high school level. Wave 4, we would increase the capacity, bringing in our 1st graders, 2nd grade, 6th grade, and 10th grade. And then wave 5 would be our remaining students.
Y el regreso de las fases en personas, los estudiantes regresarán en 5 grupos. Could we go to the next slide, please? Las familias, I'm sorry.
Do you want, would you like to, Maria, would you like to translate this?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
En las fases de regreso en persona va a ser por olas o por nivel. El nivel 1 o la ola 1 tendremos a los estudiantes que son de educación especial. En la ola 2 vamos a tener los estudiantes suplementarios de educación especial. En la ola 3 vamos a tener los estudiantes en transición en los siguientes grados. Primero los grados de primaria, de kinder, después los grados de secundaria, que es de 5º grado, y el de la preparatoria, que es el 9º grado. En la ola o en el nivel 4 vamos a tener adicionalmente los estudiantes en la capacidad de la siguiente manera. Estudiantes de los grados 1, 2 y después el grado 6 y el grado 10. En la ola 5 vamos a tener a los estudiantes que van a quedar o permanecer híbridos, que son los siguientes grados: el grado 3º, el 4º, el 7º, 8º, el 11 y el 12.
If we return, families will have the choice between full-time virtual or a hybrid learning plan.
Si regresaremos, las familias podrán elegir entre un modelo de aprendizaje virtual o híbrido a tiempo completo.
So what are those options? So hybrid, that will be a combination of in-person learning as well as remote. So for in-person, and I have another slide that will explain the 2 to 4. So students will receive instruction in the building 2 to 4 days per week, in addition to the virtual learning that they're already participating in, which includes synchronous and asynchronous lessons. They will continue to receive an NASD curriculum delivered by their teachers. Also, we will provide meals in school and for remote learning days. Hybrid students may return to 100% virtual at any time based on parent or district requests. For full-time virtual students, they will maintain the same format that they're using today. I must share that the schedules will change though, and we will discuss that in a few slides. They will continue with synchronous and asynchronous lessons. Again, they will also be provided instruction via their current teacher. We're using our same NASD curriculum. This time, they will also have interaction with their classmates that are in class, and I will share the tech setup for the classrooms in a few slides. Also, for students who decide to remain fully virtual, they can still pick up meals via our food distribution plan. Now, if students would like to transition from full-time virtual to hybrid, according to our current plan and our current dates, they will have to wait until the end of the 3rd marking period.
Las opciones de aprendizaje son las siguientes. Vamos a tener 2 opciones: la opción híbrida y la opción virtual a tiempo completo. Durante la opción híbrida va a ser una combinación de aprendizaje en persona y a distancia. La instrucción en persona va a ser de 2 a 4 días a la semana. Las instrucciones virtuales sincrónicas y asincrónicas serían 3 días a la semana. El plan de estudio del distrito escolar del área de Norristown será presentado por los maestros que están trabajando con nosotros actualmente. Las comidas en la escuela y para los días de aprendizaje a distancia estarán disponibles, y los estudiantes híbridos pueden regresar al 100% virtual en cualquier momento según lo soliciten los padres o el distrito escolar. Si escogen la opción virtual a tiempo completo, esto significa un aprendizaje a distancia, 5 días a la semana desde casa. Las instrucciones serían sincrónicas y asincrónicas. El plan de estudio del distrito escolar sería presentado por los maestros que tenemos actuales. Tendrán interacción virtual con los estudiantes que están en persona en modo híbrido. También se continuará la distribución de alimentos que es programada para las comidas. Los estudiantes que están virtualmente en casa tienen opción de solicitar esas comidas cuando estén disponibles. Y también deben permanecer en la plataforma de aprendizaje a distancia o virtual hasta el final del 3er periodo de calificaciones, que sería como en abril.
And parents, before I proceed, I would like to let you know that you will be able to ask questions at the end of the presentation. We will have a Q&A session for you. Okay, so what will this look like, the rotation? So full-time virtual students, again, they're fully remote, Monday through Friday. We will divide students into cohort A and cohort B. So parents, if you have not already, please complete our survey to let us know if you intend to remain fully virtual or you would like your students to participate in in-person instruction. So if your child is part of cohort A, that means that they will be in school on Monday and Tuesday and receive remote learning Wednesday through Thursday. Please note that everyone will participate in remote learning. Why? So that we can do a deep clean between each cohort as well. Cohort B, they're going to receive remote learning Monday through Wednesday, in person Thursday and Friday. So in the previous slide, when I spoke about some students being in person 4 days per week, so some of our special ed students and also our newcomers. And again, it is the option of the parent to decide if they want their children to participate in in-person learning. You will also have the option to remain fully virtual. It is parents' choice. Regarding cohorts, our goal is to keep families together. So once we receive your survey, we will be able to divide students by cohorts and make sure that we keep families together.
Entonces tendremos una rotación. ¿Y qué significa esto? Esto significa que vamos a dividir los estudiantes en grupos. Los grupos virtual a tiempo completo van a estar aprendiendo a distancia desde su casa, como lo hemos estado haciendo, 5 días a la semana, de lunes a viernes. También tenemos el cohorte o el grupo A, que estaría en persona en los lunes y los martes. Miércoles, jueves y viernes estarían aprendiendo a distancia desde casa esos 3 días. Necesitamos que todos los estudiantes, bien sea que sean híbridos o en personas, participen en el aprendizaje a distancia unos días. Y esto es porque necesitamos limpiar a profundo y desinfectar a los edificios todas las semanas. Para el grupo B o el cohorte B, el aprendizaje a distancia sería lunes y martes, miércoles y en persona jueves y viernes. Los estudiantes con necesidades especiales estarían en persona lunes, martes. Estaríamos con ellos a distancia los miércoles y en personas jueves y viernes. También queremos recordarles que las familias vamos a permanecer los miembros de familias juntos cuando recibamos los resultados de la encuesta que se le mandó. La meta es que permanezcan las familias juntas. Y también estos cohortes se basan en los resultados de la encuesta y serán asignados por el distrito.
In order to make this work, to transition to hybrid, we will need to update our schedules. So students are currently operating on a full remote schedule. In order to bring students back and implement lunch periods at various times, we will need to change the schedule for all students.
De manera para que esto funcione, tenemos que apoyar las necesidades de aprendizajes a distancia en persona. Todos los estudiantes recibirán un horario actualizado para que los maestros puedan impartir instrucción simultánea. Entonces, esto significa que para que funcione, vamos a tener que hacer cambios a los horarios de los estudiantes. Entonces, los horarios de los edificios pueden variar según la inscripción y los recursos que tenemos.
So here's a sample of the elementary schedule. And again, we need to adjust the schedules in order to accommodate for various lunch periods. And also our teachers will provide instruction to the students that are remote, as well as the students that are in person. So at the very bottom, this is our current virtual schedule, one of our current virtual schedules for elementary. Notice that everything's aligned. There's just one lunch period. When we transition into the building, again, we're going to have to adjust the schedule.
Este es un ejemplo de del modo virtual que tenemos en estos momentos. Y para que esto funcione, necesitamos mostrarles el ejemplo y si pueden ver, tenemos un solo almuerzo, un periodo de un solo almuerzo. Tenemos que ajustar el horario porque los maestros van a estar enseñando a los dos modos, el modo virtual, tiempo completo, pero también a los estudiantes que van a regresar en persona en el modo híbrido. Por eso se tiene que ajustar el horario. Y también en el horario que tenemos actualmente solamente hay un periodo de almuerzo. Al regresar de modo híbrido, se ajustará el horario y vamos a tener varios almuerzos.
So let's discuss the day in the life of a hybrid student. So beginning at home, we need every student to leave home with a mask that will cover their nose and their mouth. It is very important that our students understand that they must have a mask on throughout the day. And we will talk about mask breaks a little later. So before school, parents will need to complete a self-checklist. Please, 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 it is very important. If your child is not feeling well, please do not send your child to school. Remember, your child can also log on via the virtual platform to receive instruction. So if your child is exhibiting any symptoms and they're not feeling well, please allow them to stay home. Also, when students arrive to the bus stop, they will, again, please make sure they're wearing their mask. When they load the bus, they will load from the back to the front. We do know that children are very social and they have not seen their friends in a while, but health and safety must remain at the forefront. So we will have reduced number of students on the bus and the vehicles will be cleaned between runs as well. Again, students need to wear their mask, and when they get to the bus stop, they will load the bus from the back to the front. And parents, please partner with us and please make sure that the self-checklist is completed prior to allowing your child to leave the home. Okay, so once they get to school, what happens? So students will enter through designated doors and it will look differently for each building because the design of the building. So the principals will let the students know exactly which door they need to enter as well. Those parents who drop off, the principals will also inform you of those procedures. We do have PPE equipment, hand sanitizer, soap, wipes, things to keep the kids and the staff safe throughout the day. And kids will have scheduled time for hand sanitizing. That does not mean if you send your child to school with hand sanitizer that they cannot use it, when they would like. And it does not mean that the child cannot ask to wash their hand. But we are going to schedule breaks for hand sanitizing and washing of hands to just promote healthy hygiene. Also, in the morning, students will receive breakfast in their homeroom or their period 1. So breakfast will be provided, and the students will eat in the classroom. They will not have on their masks to eat, but once they're done, they will clean up and we will wipe down everything, and the students will continue on with their day with their mask on. Again, we will wipe down all the surfaces. At the elementary level, the kids pretty much stay in the same classroom. So the discussion that we'll have later this week for secondary will look a little differently. Yes, thank you, Leo. You may move to the next slide.
Ahora le explicaremos un día en la vida de los estudiantes que van a regresar en persona en modo híbrido. Antes de llegar a la escuela, se les requiere a todos los estudiantes usar una mascarilla, ponerse la mascarilla antes de salir de la casa para ir a la escuela. Es sumamente importante que los padres se aseguren de que sus hijos se pongan la mascarilla para irse a la escuela. Las familias también se les pedirán que completen la lista de autochequeo a través de la aplicación que se llama Frontline. Los estudiantes deben usar la mascarilla en el autobús. La mascarilla debe cubrir no solamente la nariz, también la boca. Los estudiantes serán sentados desde atrás hacia adelante en el autobús. Vamos a tener un número reducido de estudiantes en cada autobús y los vehículos se limpiarán entre carreras o entre llevadas y recogidas de la escuela. Una vez que los estudiantes lleguen a la escuela, los estudiantes tienen que ingresar a través de las áreas que van a ser asignadas del edificio o la escuela. Vamos a tener desinfectación de manos programadas antes y después de cualquier transición. Los maestros del salón principal o el salón hogar del periodo 1 verificarán la entrada de la lista del autochequeo a través de Frontline. Antes que los niños lleguen al salón de clases, los maestros van a verificar de que ese autochequeo se completó en la aplicación de Frontline. También va a tener el desayuno, se les proveerá en el salón principal o el salón hogar en el primer periodo. Y las áreas se limpiarán antes y después de las comidas.
Parents, before I describe this, with wearing of masks, it would be a good idea to start practicing with your child. You can make it into a game. How long can you keep your mask on? Because we have to start building stamina. So if you know that you would like your child to return to school, they are in virtual learning now. The principals, we have talked about this as well. It is just a suggestion. I strongly suggest just practicing with the child. Finding a mask that the child is comfortable with wearing throughout the day, because as you know, the child will be with us for about 7-8 hours. So we want to make sure that we are promoting health and wellness for all. And also just help them get into a routine of washing their hands, keeping their hands away from their mouth. It is very important to practice with them because they're so young and they're probably not accustomed to wearing a mask for several hours a day. They will have mask breaks, but the sooner we start practicing with them, the better they'll be once they return to school. Okay, Mrs. Salazar-Williams, would you like to translate that before I move on to our pictures?
Yes, thank you. Antes de describir las siguientes imágenes, me gustaría recalcar y darles una sugerencia. Nos gustaría que los padres comiencen a practicar el uso de las mascarillas con sus hijos. Es muy importante de que los niños lleguen acostumbrados a usar su mascarilla, especialmente para esos estudiantes que van a optar por regresar en persona. Queremos recordarle a los padres que los estudiantes que van a venir en persona van a estar con nosotros de 7 a 8 horas al día. Y por eso nos gustaría, y los directores también estaban comentando de que sería bueno que desde casa los niños comiencen a usar su mascarilla, pero también a tener una buena rutina frecuente de lavarse las manos, usar el desinfectante o lavárselas con jabón, pero que sea frecuente para que ellos ya estén acostumbrados y adaptados a esas rutinas al regreso de la clase.
Thank you. Before you have a few pictures to just demonstrate some of the markings to remind students about social distancing. I have to share that the NASD hybrid plan and NASD virtual, we work together as a complete team, from cabinets with the superintendents, as well as our facilities department, our principals, our teachers, our IT department, transportation, food services. This is a collaborative project because every department is very important and it is needed to help us get through the day. So before you, I have just some sample markings, and the facilities department they have not yet placed these in the buildings yet because we want to do it closer to when the students will return, so it'll be fresh. So I did, have them walk through a building with me, and we did set, we kind of just laid out some things for you so you can see what we have in stock in order to help kids promote social distancing. So to your left, the social distancing reminders with the footsteps, similar to what they see when they go to the grocery stores and to the stores. So, again, practicing with our little ones, when you're out and about, remind them that when you see these markings and when you go to school, you make sure that you keep your distance to keep everyone safe. The red markings here, again, just reminding students to be socially distanced. And we do have those in Spanish. And the images that you will see on the door, reminding them to stay safe, wash their hands, and things that we would definitely need parents to support us with, and reminding students to do at home as well.
Ahora le queremos explicar lo que significan las siguientes imágenes. Como pueden ver, son imágenes que tienen marcos o avisos, y estos avisos es para ayudarnos a mantener a todos, especialmente a los estudiantes, seguros. También queremos dejarles saber que trabajando para el plan híbrido y el plan virtual fue un esfuerzo en equipo. Es importante trabajar como equipo con los departamentos que les vamos a mencionar: el departamento de comidas, el departamento de operaciones, el departamento de tecnología. Esto ha sido un esfuerzo completo de todos esos equipos y hemos trabajado juntos para tener un regreso a la escuela exitoso. Estos marcos nos ayudará como recordatorios para los estudiantes y también para la facultad de mantenernos seguros y sanos, practicando las rutinas del distanciamiento social. Las flechas que ustedes ven y estos avisos también son comunes en las tiendas, en los supermercados, y es importante de que cuando estén en esos lugares con sus hijos, que practiquen con ellos y les expliquen lo que significan esos marcos, esos avisos, y que practiquen juntos mantener la distancia, caminar por el lado de las flechas, que indica que se tiene que caminar de ese lado. Y es nuevamente una manera de que ellos estén acostumbrados a este tipo de rutina para mantenerlos seguros. También tenemos el aviso que ven en la puerta. Es para recordarles a los estudiantes que tienen que mantener su distancia, y es por el propósito de mantenernos todos sanos y salvos.
And I must add, the masking tape was just for illustration purposes only. We will not use inexpensive masking tape.
Y ella también quiere recordar de que la cinta adhesiva que ve con las flechas, ella dice que solamente fue un ejemplo, pero que van a usar algo mucho mejor que esa cinta adhesiva.
Okay, students are in the building, they've had breakfast, they've cleaned their hands, they've wiped down their spaces. The classroom setup, we will have the students seated 6 feet apart, and we will show you an illustration of that as well. We do have technology, as I shared, to support teachers providing instruction in person and virtually at the same time. Students, as they do now, they have their own materials for their lessons. They will continue to use their device. We do need our elementary students to bring their Chromebooks with them to and from school, so they will need a backpack for that, because we would like to have limited sharing, if at all. We actually prefer not to share any materials, so the kids will have their own desks. We will not use cubbies. I don't even think I have this on this slide. Oh, yes, I do. We will not use cubbies. We would like to, again, promote social distancing, and the principals will touch on this during the Q&A as well. The transition, so you did have an opportunity to kind of see some transition ideas in the hallways. Again, every building is different, but social distancing and having directional pathways for students will be consistent. So again, we need students to adhere to social distancing, follow the traffic patterns, and we will also use staggered schedules as much as possible to reduce the number of students in the halls.
Y continuamos explicándole lo que significa un día en la vida de los estudiantes de la opción híbrida. El personal creará oportunidades para desinfectar las manos y limpiar los espacios en el horario diario con frecuencia. En cuanto a la preparación del salón de clase, los estudiantes van a estar sentados a 6 pies de distancia de cada uno. También van a tener tecnología para apoyar el aprendizaje en persona y virtual. Les recordamos también que los estudiantes de las escuelas primarias, por favor, cuando envíen a los niños a la escuela, que ellos traigan sus Chromebooks o sus computadoras todos los días para así evitar compartir esas cosas. Entonces los estudiantes tendrán sus útiles escolares para la clase y así no compartir esos útiles escolares. Tendremos un uso compartido muy limitado de cosas que se necesitan durante el día, como los muebles, útiles, y el personal y los estudiantes limpiarán las áreas compartidas y de frecuente uso y todos los artículos que ellos usan durante el día después de su uso. No se le asignarán casilleros ni cúbicos a los estudiantes a menos que sea necesario, pero eso se tratará de evitar. Durante la transición o cuando los estudiantes se muevan de un espacio a otro o de un lugar a otro, los estudiantes tienen que adherirse al distanciamiento social en todas las áreas de instrucción y durante cualquier cambio o transición durante el día. Se colocarán señales direccionales en los pasillos, como le acabamos de enseñar en las imágenes, en las escaleras, también para fomentar y promover el distanciamiento social. También se implementarán los horarios escalonados cuando sea posible para reducir el número de estudiantes en los pasillos.
Okay, so here we have sample classrooms. And in the center is the setup that the facilities department uses in order to set up each classroom. Again, 6 feet apart. Your classroom to the right is a sample elementary classroom. So as you see, there are markings to help kids maintain 6 feet distance, a 6-foot distance. And the yellow marking in this classroom will introduce the teacher zone, which I'll share with you within another slide. So again, we have students spaced out 6 feet apart, and it's space for teachers as well. To the left, it is a high school classroom, again 6 feet apart, and the teacher zone in the front of the room.
Estas imágenes les queremos mostrar para darles un ejemplo de la preparación de los salones de clase. Hacia la derecha pueden ver un salón de clase a nivel de las escuelas primarias. Y como pueden ver, los pupitres están separados a 6 pies de distancia para fomentar el distanciamiento social durante las clases. En la parte izquierda pueden ver un salón de clase a nivel de preparatoria. Igualmente está preparado con un distanciamiento social de 6 pies de cada pupitre a cada pupitre. Y la parte del frente es la zona donde el maestro enseña en su escritorio.
the teacher zone. So each teacher will have a smart board, a monitor in their Chromebook, as well as a desktop, a microphone, and a document camera. So this allows the teacher, so we have a sample here. The teacher can deliver instruction. The teacher's in front of the room in the teacher zone. The teacher can see the class that's online, as well as interact with the students in the classroom. It is not necessary for the teacher to stand in front of the students who are virtual, because the students will be able to see the teacher walk around and walk within this zone here via the dot cam. Another highlight is that the students that are online can actually hear and interact with the students that are in person. So we will have speakers in the classroom, whether it is a small speaker, which is a pretty powerful speaker, or using the speakers that are already built in the classroom. So this allows the teacher to deliver instruction to students virtually and in person at the same time.
Las siguientes imágenes es un ejemplo de la preparación de tecnología para la instrucción, y esta es la zona de los profesores, la zona de los maestros. Como pueden ver, los maestros van a tener el uso de una pizarra inteligente. También van a tener el uso de un Chromebook, una computadora portátil y también la computadora de escritorio. También van a tener una cámara que es especialmente para los documentos y también sus audífonos. Como podrán ver, el maestro podrá manejar los dos modos. Va a estar presente en la clase con los estudiantes que están en persona en el modo híbrido, pero también va a tener acceso y puede interactuar con los estudiantes que están en casa y puede manejar los dos al mismo tiempo. También van a tener audífonos donde ellos pueden escuchar a los estudiantes que están en casa en el modo virtual, y también va a tener acceso a los estudiantes que están en persona. También los salones de clases van a tener audífonos donde se puedan escuchar los estudiantes también.
We have an additional setup. So this is an elementary classroom. As a reminder, the teacher zone, the yellow marking on the floor, the student's desk are 6 feet apart. And here the teacher's monitor and the teacher's Chromebook will be set up on the desk. The teacher has a microphone and the dot cam. So again, the teacher could provide instruction here, and the students that are logged in virtually can still see what's going on in the classroom.
Este también es un ejemplo de la preparación de tecnología para, esto es un salón de clases de la escuela primaria. Nuevamente, el marco amarillo, esa cinta amarilla que ven en el salón de clase, esa es la zona del maestro, donde el maestro va a estar enseñando, y tiene una cámara para los documentos que el maestro va a estar compartiendo, y esa cámara puede darle acceso a esos documentos para que los estudiantes que están virtual puedan ver esos documentos también. También tienen un micrófono y también van a tener las computadoras, van a estar instaladas de una manera que el maestro no solamente pueda atender a los estudiantes que están en persona, pero que también pueda ver e interactuar con los estudiantes que están en casa aprendiendo a distancia.
Let's move into lunch. And again, as a reminder, staff will build in mask breaks. And also as a reminder, we need students to practice wearing their mask for long periods of time. Lunch menus will be limited, and they will receive pre-packaged meals. Also, elementary students may eat in their classrooms or in the cafeteria, depending on the school. Secondary students will eat mostly in the cafeteria in some classrooms. and the shared areas will be clean and sanitized after each use. Now, recess will look very different from what the children are used to, and the principals will share the procedures for recess as well. So we've gone throughout the day. Now it's time for dismissal. Looking at dismissal, dismissing with a staggered schedule, again, to reduce the number of students in the hallways and promote social distancing. Students will continue to follow the markings for transitions throughout the dismissal time. And again, following the procedures for loading the bus.
Ahora le explicaremos la hora del almuerzo, el recreo y el despacho. Un recordatorio es que el personal y los maestros van a incluir descansos de mascarillas en el horario diario. Durante el almuerzo, los menús del almuerzo serán limitados y los almuerzos serán empaquetados con anticipación. Los estudiantes de primaria comerán sus almuerzos en sus aulas o en la cafetería. Los estudiantes de secundaria van a comer en las aulas, en la cafetería o en las áreas de gran espacio. Las áreas compartidas serán limpiadas y desinfectadas después del almuerzo. Durante el recreo, los estudiantes de primaria tendrán recreo dentro de las pautas del distanciamiento social. No se utilizarán áreas de juegos ni equipos deportivos. Durante el despacho o la hora de salida, los estudiantes serán despachados en un horario escalonado en la mayor medida posible. Los estudiantes seguirán los procedimientos de transición durante la salida para mantener un espacio adecuado entre sus compañeros. Y también van a ser organizados y guardando el distanciamiento social al abordar el autobús.
And before I share our last slide, I think I forgot to mention. So if our students are in person, so cohort A, they're in for Monday and Tuesday. They will receive breakfast and lunch on Monday and Tuesday. On Tuesday, they will leave with meals for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we have been approved for weekend meals as well. So the food services department, they're working out the logistics of how we're going to distribute the additional meals, but that is the plan. For students, the 2 days that they're in, they will receive meals in school, and then they will leave with meals for the remaining days.
Antes de compartir las últimas imágenes con ustedes, me gustaría compartir de que el grupo A o el cohorte A estarán en personas en la escuela los lunes y los martes. Y van a recibir su almuerzo en la escuela esos 2 días, lunes y martes. El día martes, antes de irse a casa, los estudiantes llevarán con ellos el almuerzo de ellos para los días miércoles, jueves y viernes. Estamos también organizándonos para ver cómo vamos a distribuir los almuerzos para los demás días, pero para el grupo A, que está en persona, lunes y martes, el martes durante el despacho, ellos llevarán suficientes comidas o almuerzos para el día miércoles, jueves y viernes.
So for our last few images, as a reminder, we will have hand sanitizing stations, soap, and these were already in the buildings as well. But again, reminding and practicing with the students, washing their hands, keeping their hands away from their face and wearing their mask. So the center photo is a sample setup for a cafeteria. The white sheets of paper indicate where students will sit. And again, the students need to be 6 feet apart. And notice that they must face the same direction. And if there are students sitting in the center, Again, 6 feet apart and facing away from the other students. So the nice part about this, and dividing the kids into cohorts, so this is just half of a cafeteria. So here, if second graders are eating lunch, the other side is already prepped and cleaned for the next class. So once the second graders are done, the third graders will come in on the clean side, while the custodial staff will clean and sanitize the other side. Again, spaces will be clean and sanitized between usage.
Este es un ejemplo de la preparación de la cafetería. Y como recordatorio, en la primera imagen, ustedes pueden ver que vamos a tener estaciones para la limpieza de las manos frecuentes con el desinfectante de manos. En la imagen que ven en el medio son las mesas de la cafetería y como se dan cuenta pueden ver las marcas blancas y eso indica la ubicación de los estudiantes. En el marco blanco, ahí va a estar un estudiante sentado y el siguiente es a 6 pies de distancia para fomentar el distanciamiento social. La idea es que ellos todos estén de una ubicación que están al frente y no tienen a nadie al frente de ellos, solamente están sentados de un lado. Y es importante porque cuando los estudiantes están tomando su almuerzo, al terminar, siempre se va a desinfectar el área, pero cuando el siguiente grado venga a tomar su almuerzo, se van a sentar al lado opuesto, donde no estaban los otros estudiantes. Pero de recordatorio, siempre, cada vez que haya un cambio de almuerzo, las áreas y todas las mesas van a ser desinfectadas después de cada uso.
Thank you. So this will conclude the overview of our plan. As a reminder, it is a plan and we will not implement the plan until we reach the desired data points. On our website, you will see a data dashboard. It will let you know if we are fully remote or if we are in person. Remember, we need 2 weeks of solid data to return to in-person instruction. We need to remain at low or low moderate for our students to safely return to school. At this time, if you have any questions, if you could please raise your hand and we will take your questions. I believe we can take questions for about 20 minutes. We'll get in as many as possible. So at this time, if you have any questions, please raise your hand.
All right, the hands are being raised. Our first one up is it Marisol?
When you present your question, could you please let us know your child's building so the appropriate principal could respond? Thank you.
Unmute, okay.
Hello.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So my daughter's Kylie. She goes to Cole Manor. Her teacher's Miss Val. She's in 1st grade. So I actually had a couple of questions. So listening to what you said, I heard that the kids will be bringing their Chromebooks. So it's still virtual in person then.
So the students will be bringing their Chromebooks back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So because they will be using them for some things in the classroom. However, the other reason would be if for any reason we would need to switch over, if say it is on a Friday, switch over the following week to an all virtual. We want to be sure that the students always have their Chromebooks at home with them for that purpose.
Okay. Okay. And then, like I said, I have a couple questions. So, so the whole recess thing, because my daughter definitely wanted to know. She's excited to go back, especially because this is a new school for her, so she gets to make friends and stuff. I know from what you guys are saying, it's going to be different. Can you like just explain that a little bit more to me? Like, do you guys have like maybe some social distancing recess games for them or something? Okay.
Absolutely. So the main focus when we planned the recess was we identified 3 separate spaces on
Mhm.
the property. And as Dr. Williams said, it depends on the building. So we've identified 3 separate areas. And recess will be staggered so that only one class at a time is in any one given area. So you said your child is in Ms. Vale's classroom. So
Correct.
Ms. Vale's children would be on one of those playgrounds by themselves for their recess period. And we have shared some socially distancing recess games that teachers are, learning about and reading about and things that they can try. But again, as Dr. Williams shared earlier, our main focus is safety. So any types of games or things they're going to take part in, we want to make sure that they're apart and that they're doing it in a safe manner. But they definitely will have their own space, and we will have recess, one main recess, and then teachers may add in another small break during the day as they see the need for that.
Okay, that's good. And that's like the same for gym as well. Will they have gym?
Yes, they will.
Okay. And I guess my last question would be, because we, like I said, my daughter's in first grade, so we know how younger kids can be, and they're still trying to like, figure out this whole social distancing, like, no, you can't touch, or, so in school, I'm sure it'll probably happen more than once, which is a big deal. It's not a big deal, whatever the case is, kids touching other kids or kids trying to run up and hug them. There's kids that are going to do it. I do expect that to happen, honestly, even though with you guys telling, the kids, whatever it is, you guys are telling them at school and what we tell them at home. So if this happens, and it might happen a couple times, if it doesn't, that'd be great. But I'm just wondering, are we going to get phone calls? Is it going to be like a warning thing where it's like, well, if you do this again, you cannot do in-person learning. You'll have to stay home and do the virtual thing. How is that going to go?
So basically we, every school has a health and safety plan, as do we at Comanner. And, one of the things that we are talking about with the staff is being proactive. So, part of our morning announcements and our morning routines will be reminders to the students about social distancing, about keeping their hands to themselves, staying in their own space, and all of the parameters for safety. Before a transition time or before lunch, there will be reminders throughout the day. And as you said, students are younger and they may move out of that parameter once or twice as a mistake. They will be reminded. If something becomes problematic, we obviously would notify the parent.
Okay.
The idea is absolutely not to be punitive. It's to be safe and just to provide reminders. But I think the main key here is to be as proactive as possible, which is part of our plan to ensure that students, have ease in following all of these new protocols.
And if I could add, I would agree with Dr. Poncari, but I must share that we have to really have strict guidelines about health and safety, because our young children are going home to families maybe with some underlying conditions, and we don't know how this virus will affect anyone. So it is very important that kids follow procedures, protocols. There may be times that we may have to reassign students back to virtual learning if it's a struggle for them to adhere to social guidelines, because we do want to keep everyone safe and keep our schools open. And that's the only way that we can safely do that, if we really practice with our kids and remind them about social distancing and practicing with them. Practice before they come back, and give them safe options. And I'm pretty sure the schools will share those things with them: safe ways to say hello, safe ways to greet, safe ways to say goodbye, because the socialization is very important for them. We have to practice because we want them to be well. We do want our students and our staff to remain well.
Now, will the students get their temperatures checked every day coming into school, or is that something that you guys aren't? I know that you said already, like if your child is sick and stuff, but the symptoms, everybody has different symptoms. People are sick and they don't even know that they're sick at this point, so.
My understanding is that they're going to be filling out the form that Dr. Williams referred to earlier, which parents will fill out. And on that form, it does ask about symptoms and whatnot. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Williams, but I do not believe we'll be scanning everyone for a temperature. Is that correct?
No, but we do have thermal scanners.
We do have
Used if needed. But we do really ask that parents, if your child is not feeling well, if they're exhibiting any symptoms at all, please have them participate in virtual learning until they're well.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We do need to give Mrs. Salazar Williams time to translate most of that.
I'm sorry, it was a lot.
It's okay. So the question was about the devices, carrying them back and forth, recess, and what are social, promoting social distancing among students.
Sí, las siguientes preguntas fueron las siguientes. La madre recalcó de que la hija va a la escuela de Cole Manor en primer grado y dice que le llamó la atención que mencionaron de que los niños tienen que traer sus computadoras todos los días y a ella le pareció de que eso estarían en persona, pero prácticamente virtual si van a estar en la computadora. La directora le explicó de que quieren que los niños estén en una rutina de que no se les olvide las computadoras, pero que sí van a haber muchas oportunidades que los maestros van a estar enseñando en personas a los estudiantes, pero sí van a haber algunos momentos donde usen la computadora, pero es para acostumbrarlos a que ellos tomen responsabilidad y tener sus útiles, y incluyendo la computadora con ellos todos los días. La otra pregunta fue acerca de cómo se vería el recreo, el tiempo del recreo, viendo de que la niña es pequeña y se necesita ese tiempo de recreo, que cómo funcionaría con el distanciamiento social, que si los maestros van a organizar algunos juegos y que sí sería un tiempo divertido para los niños. La directora le explicó de que sí, que los maestros organizarán juegos para los niños y que eso sería un tiempo de descanso para ellos y que lo van a hacer de una manera que ellos puedan interactuar, pero a la misma vez manteniendo el distanciamiento social. La otra pregunta fue acerca de que los niños son niños y viendo de que la niña está en primer grado, ¿qué serían las reglas cuando un niño no está siguiendo las reglas de distanciamiento social o que rompan algunas reglas que las escuelas tienen acerca de cómo mantenerse seguros? La directora explicó que van a estar tomando medidas de recordándole a los estudiantes que tienen que permanecer a 6 pies de distancia de cada uno y de que se entiende que los niños van a ser niños, pero vamos a estar pendiente de eso y que la idea no es castigarlos, pero enseñarles la rutina, y por eso es importante que los padres comiencen a practicar con ellos en casa y que también se entienden de que los niños puedan regresar a casa con personas mayores o personas con algún tipo de con algo de salud, enfermas con algo y que puedan ser de alto riesgo, y no queremos que los niños lleven nada a casa en cuestiones del virus. Entonces, vamos a tener reglas estrictas para el distanciamiento social, pero es con la idea de mantenerlos todos sanos y salvos, no solamente los estudiantes, pero todos en casa, padres, abuelos, cualquier familiar.
Before we move to the next question, would any other principal like to share their recess procedures? Because that may be a popular topic. If you have any variations from Dr. Poncari.
Sure. I think in conjunction with what Dr. Poncari was saying, we're going to have different sections broken off our playground. We're going to, obviously every school is laid out different, has different size playgrounds. So, it could look and vary in each school, but we will have sections as well at Paul Fly Elementary School, back parking lot and side parking lot, to make sure that students have plenty of room. We want to get them out running around. Our goal is to get them exercise, enjoy the time outside when the weather permits. So very similar to what Dr. Pancari is in regards to breaking up the playground where students can socially distance. So.
El que acaba de hablar es el señor Smith, que él es el director de la escuela de Paul Fly. La señora Williams le pidió a los directores que si querían compartir adicionalmente los procedimientos del recreo de sus escuelas. El señor Smith dice que cada escuela va a tener sus propios procedimientos en cuestiones de recreo, pero que es muy similar. En la escuela de Paul Fly van a tener secciones del patio y el estacionamiento. Van a tener varias secciones donde los estudiantes puedan correr, puedan jugar, puedan hacer ejercicio y gastar sus energías y tener ese descanso que necesitan, pero que también va a ser de una manera responsable, manteniendo ese distanciamiento social para la seguridad de todos ellos. Y el recreo, por supuesto, va a ser en cuestiones del clima, si se permite, pueden salir afuera, pueden tener su recreo fuera de la escuela, bien lo permita el clima. Si es muy frío, me imagino que van a tener unas reglas en cuanto al clima, cuando sea un día lluvioso, pero si el clima lo permite, sí, los estudiantes tendrán tiempo de correr, jugar, hacer ejercicio, mientras mantienen el distanciamiento social.
Thank you. Leo, we're ready for the next question.
Okay, next up on the list is Debbie.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
My son is Lucas and he goes to Paul Fly as Mrs. Altieri. And I had a few questions, but I'm not going to try not to take up too much time. I'll try and bounce around. The checklist, is that something we would fill out and send in every day? And then leading into that, would they be, when you said that they'd be loading the bus from the back, are they going in the front door and just loading, sitting from the back forward, or are they physically going in the emergency exit in the back? Because that's kind of high off the ground. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'll wait until you're done. I'm sorry, I was going to answer that.
No, go ahead, because the next two, and then I'll just have two quick ones that go together that are about in school. So that's okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the checklist, and we're working on that. So whether it's via an app or a student device, it's going to be something you can do electronically.
Okay.
And loading the bus, the students will enter the front of the bus and make their way to the back, and the driver will load the bus that way. So first on will go to the back of the bus, and he or she will just load the bus up to the front as they continue on with the route.
That's what I figured the answer was going to be, but I wanted to make sure because we're short. And then with regards to like the Chromebooks, will they need to bring I'm guessing they'll need to bring their cords back and forth, or would there possibly be additional cords at school so that they don't have to worry about forgetting a cord, or like I kind of have my sons, strung behind the desk, and so that it's out of the way.
So first of all, good evening, Mrs. Capizzi. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Mr.
A great question. Chromebooks, we're just going to send reminders about having the students charge the Chromebooks before they come to school the next day. So that way they come to school charged. Obviously, we'll have, working with IT, we'll have some, we know that chances are the Chromebook won't get charged. So we'll make sure that we have that available at each school so that students are not left in a lurch, with a dead Chromebook. But yeah, we'll remind students to make sure their Chromebooks are charged each day. And then we'll make sure that we have some available, because we know that students, the Chromebooks, they die quick sometimes, and we're going to make sure that they're all set for the day. Great question.
Okay, great. And then my other question was just really, in looking at the diagrams and the pictures that you had of mock classrooms, how many students can fit into a classroom? I mean, what if you have a teacher that, right, like I think there's about 20 kids in Lucas's class, and say most of those kids actually sign up to come into school. I mean, I know you're going to have them split, but would that, I mean, how many can be in a room at one time? Generally, obviously classroom sizes are different sizes.
Sure. So obviously every classroom is different. If you look at the shapes of Paul Fly's classrooms, are cut into pie slices. Some
Yep.
buildings are rectangular, some are square. I can tell you in Mrs. Altier's classroom, based off the guidelines that we've been provided, that we can have up to 13 students in the classroom. Now,
Oh.
we will not have all 13 spots filled. Chances are it'll probably be around, it could be anywhere from 7 to 8, you know,
Okay.
at a particular day, whether Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday. So there will be plenty of spacing in the classroom, and that's 13 based off the given number of
The
appropriate
maximum.
spaces. Yep.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm going to leave other questions that will probably get answered by other people, so I'll let it go. Thank you very much. And I
Thank
appreciate
you.
what you guys
Have a
are
good night.
doing. You too.
Mrs. Salazar-Williams, would you like to recap on the checklist, loading of the buses, Chromebooks, and mock-up classroom?
La señora Debbie tenía las siguientes preguntas y ella dice que su hijo se llama Lucas y él va a la escuela de Paul Fly. Ella preguntaba acerca del autochequeo. Es una lista que los padres van a tener que completar. Ahí se mencionó anteriormente que va a ser en Frontline. Eso se tiene que completar todos los días. Va a ser responsabilidad de los padres todas las mañanas completar ese autochequeo para asegurarnos de que ninguno de los estudiantes se presenten en la escuela con ninguno de los síntomas. Y se les recuerda de que si los niños están enfermos o están presentando alguno de los síntomas, que por favor los dejen en casa. También preguntó acerca del autobús. Ella tenía la pregunta de que escuchó de que los estudiantes van a abordar el autobús del frente, pero comenzando desde atrás. Se va a llenar desde atrás hacia adelante. La pregunta de ella era de que si los niños iban a abordar por detrás a través de la salida de emergencia del autobús. Ella estaba un poquito preocupada porque dice que esa salida de emergencia es alta y que los niños están pequeños. La señora Williams le explicó que todos los niños van a llenar o abordar el autobús por la puerta principal y van a empezar a llenar el autobús desde atrás hacia adelante, pero que no van a usar la salida de emergencia. La pregunta siguiente fue acerca de los Chromebooks. Los niños van a ser requeridos de que lleven sus Chromebooks, sus computadoras portátil a la escuela todos los días. Su pregunta es, ¿deberían llevar el cargador con ellos todos los días? Ella estaba un poco preocupada de que quizás el cargador también se les olvide a los niños y que si las escuelas tienen cargadores disponibles para los estudiantes que lo necesiten. El señor Smith dijo de que a los estudiantes se les va a requerir que carguen sus computadoras todas las noches. Así en la mañana esté cargada completamente y les dure durante el día en la escuela. Entonces, los cargadores no son obligatorios y si hay algún estudiante que durante el día necesite un cargador, las escuelas van a tener unos extras disponibles para el uso de los estudiantes. Y también la última pregunta fue acerca de las imágenes. Ella vio que los pupitres están distanciados a 6 pies de distancia y dice que en el salón de su hijo son 20 niños, pero que cuántos pupitres caben en un salón con ese distanciamiento social. El señor Smith explicó de que el máximo de pupitres en el salón de clase con el distanciamiento social son 13. Pero como tenemos una rotación, esos 13 niños no van a estar en el salón de clase a la misma vez. Porque vamos a tener el grupo A, el grupo B, y van a estar en la escuela diferentes días. Entonces, él dice que será un promedio de 7 a 8 estudiantes en el salón de clases a la misma vez.
Thank you. Leah, we're ready for the next question.
Next one up, we have Amy.
Hello. My son goes to Paul Fly as Damian Hindi. I just kind of had, I guess, a general question and then a more specific one. So my general question was, are we going to receive any updated letter as far as remaining virtual from the district?
Yes, if the data deems that we will remain virtual, Superintendent Dormer will share that with families. Typically, he'll send out a connect ad and also he will do a video as well.
So I guess the more specific question is, like, I'm approved to work 100% remote due to COVID being shut down and you guys not going back till January 11th. So who do I need to reach out to get an updated letter? Because I need to have one in by January 1st with the break.
If you would call the superintendent's office, let me send you, I'll have Mr. Smith, if I can get your information, and we'll send you the contact information.
Okay.
Okay. So Mr. Smith, if you can email the parent's name to me so I can forward it to Superintendent Dormer's office.
Will do. I will.
Thank you.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Leo,
right.
would you like to move forward to the next
Yep.
question?
Next one is Julie. Oh, my screen jumped. So it went to Andrea. Sorry, Andrea, you're set to talk. All right, let's switch over to Julie. There we go.
Hi. I have two daughters that they go to Marshall Street in 2nd grade and 4th grade. So my question is, with filling out the questionnaire in the mornings, what happens if a parent forgets to fill out a questionnaire? Will they be contacted? Will they have to pick the student up? And then kind of a follow-up to that, is there a space that if there is a student who is either sick, showing symptoms, or needs to be picked up, otherwise, is there a separate space for them to wait?
I'm sorry, ma'am, I didn't understand the last part of your question. Is there a separate space? Oh, you mean if a child needs to be picked up, is there a separate space for them to be picked up?
Yes, like if they're showing, if they come in and they are showing, you know, maybe they have a fever, maybe they have a cough, something like that.
Okay. Mr. Skoczynski, you're good?
Sure. Hi, Mrs. Jost. Great question. Thank you. To answer the second question first, every building has what we call a quarantine room, and that is a room that is designated specifically for students that may be presenting symptoms. So to answer your question, yes, Marshall Street does have that. And certainly there's access to windows. We keep it well ventilated, and it will be run by the building nurse, and building nurses will take care of that. And then to answer your first question, and I think there's still some pieces that we're working out, you know, with the questionnaire each day. And those are some things that once we as a district, you know, have the questions and what we're going to ask and how we're going to ask them, then we certainly will have, you know, those pieces communicated to our parents and our families.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Salazar Williams, could you provide a brief recap?
Sure. So, la señora Julie tiene dos niñas en la escuela de Marshall Street y la pregunta de ella fue acerca del autochequeo, el cuestionario que los padres tienen que completar ante que los niños regresen a la escuela todos los días. La pregunta de ella es que si se les olvida chequear una pregunta o si se les olvida llenar el cuestionario, que si van a llamar a los padres o que si van a pedir a los padres que recojan a sus hijos. La segunda pregunta de ella fue que si cada escuela tiene un espacio especialmente para mantener a los niños que presenten algún síntoma durante el día, que si hay un área especial para ellos, para mantenerlos alejados del resto de los estudiantes. El director de la escuela Marshall Street respondió la pregunta y le dijo que sí, que cada escuela tiene un área especial para esos niños que presentan síntomas durante el día. Y la enfermera escolar es la persona que va a llevar la delantera en ese espacio y va a mantener a los estudiantes allí hasta que los padres sean contactados y se les pida recoger a sus niños.
Thank you. Leo, we're ready for the next question.
All right, next up we have Desiree.
Hi, I have a child in Pawfly. My question is, what is the protocol or do you have planned if a teacher or child tests positive?
We do have our HR department will work with the Board of Health. And, you know, as far as the guidelines and contact tracing. And the state has also shared guidelines as far as if a child or a student should test positive. We will share that information out with parents soon. But we do honor the privacy of the individual. So we will never disclose the person. But if a school needs to be closed due to increased COVID cases, which is outlined by the state, we will definitely notify families.
Okay, so just say a child tests positive in my child's class. Does the whole class have to quarantine?
There are guidelines as far as how close they were, how much time they have spent with the child. Again, there are a lot of factors that would have to be considered before we would know if a child would need to quarantine.
Okay.
And also, just to be transparent, as you know, they have adjusted, you know, as far as the distance, the duration. So, you know, we're keeping up with those things. So once we get closer, we'll be able to fully articulate the guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Mrs. Salazar Williams, could you briefly share the parent's question and the response?
Absolutely. La señora Desiree tiene niños en Paul Fly. La pregunta de ella fue acerca del protocolo, las reglas, el procedimiento, si hay un niño o un maestro que salga con resultados positivos del COVID-19. La señora Williams dice que están trabajando juntos con el Departamento de Salud y también teniendo en cuenta el rastreo de contacto. Hay reglas acerca de ver quiénes fueron las personas que estuvieron cerca de ese estudiante o de ese maestro y contactar a las personas que estuvieron involucradas para avisarles. Ella les recuerda a todos los padres que seguiremos las reglas de privacidad y en ningún momento se va a divulgar la identidad de ese maestro o de ese estudiante para guardar la privacidad de ellos, pero que el distrito va a ser transparente y le va a avisar a los padres cuando haya un caso positivo, sea un maestro o un estudiante, pero a la misma vez guardando la privacidad de esa persona. La otra pregunta de la señora Desiree es que si un estudiante de la clase de su hijo es positivo que si la clase entera tiene que tener la cuarentena. Y la doctora Williams dice que hay reglas que se tienen que tomar en cuenta y esas reglas son en relación de si el estudiante o el personal que dio positivo, quién eran las personas que estaban cerca y cuánto cerca del estudiante, qué tiempo estuvieron juntos. Hay muchas cosas que se tiene que ver, pero que definitivamente si alguien da positivo en la escuela, el distrito será transparente y les va a avisar a todos los padres.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Amber.
Leo, can you tell me how many hands are raised at this time?
Including Amber, 9.
9. Okay. Maria?
Yes.
Is it possible, is it all right to just kind of give the genesis of the response?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So we can get through them. We'll just shorten our translation. Okay? All right.
All right, I'll mark the last person in line right now.
Thank you.
So, okay. So without, so Amber's put her hand down. So moving on to Damon.
Hi, my question, my son goes to the newer school. It's escaped my mind now. I didn't expect to be next. I forget the name of the newest school, but my question was about synchronous and asynchronous learning. And I would like a definition of those two words. I mean, I'm pretty sure that one means live learning and one is not live learning, one that has not been recorded. And I was wondering if that is going to be offered to the students that choose to go virtual, because for my son, he's in kindergarten and he has breathing difficulties and he catches colds very easily. He will not be attending live school this year at all, period. My other thing was a comment on kind of streamlining this process. I, like many parents, go to work at 4:30 a.m. every day, and this is very late. And I was wondering, I go to Zoom meetings, and I was wondering if there was a way that during the webinar, we could ask our questions while you were speaking and type them while the webinar was going on and have someone answer them and post them to a board so that the parents could be asking questions and having them answered.
Sir, thank you for your feedback. First, I want to, when you say your child is in kindergarten.
Yes.
Is it Musselman?
Musselman, yes. It escaped my mind.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so if, you know what, I'll have Mr. Skazinski respond to synchronous and asynchronous because he does have kindergarten students at his building as well, and what that will look like for kindergarten students who remain within the virtual platform.
Sure. Thanks for the question, Mr. Washington. Certainly, you know, you hit the nail on the head with your definition of it. Synchronous is the live version of the lesson, and asynchronous certainly is a couple different things, a couple different pieces under the umbrella. One of which could be during this asynchronous time, The teacher or paraeducator could pull a small group of students to meet with them, or could pull one student individually and meet with them. Or there may be work posted in the virtual classroom that the students would work on, which could be work from the reading, the math, the science, or the social studies, or the teacher during the asynchronous time could post working from, IXL or something along those lines, to help reinforce a strategy or reinforce a concept. So yes, to answer your question, the synchronous is the live, live instruction, and the asynchronous is the, the work that the students would do kind of self-guided, or also, a small group with a teacher or a paraeducator.
And sir, we do thank you for your time and, staying with us. This will also be recorded if you would like to view it later. And we will continue to work on our model and how we can get information out and also respond to parents' questions. But thank you so much for joining us this evening.
La pregunta del señor Damien fue la siguiente. Él quería saber el significado de las clases sincrónicas y asincrónicas. La respuesta es que la clase sincrónica es la clase que la maestra está enseñando en vivo. Y las clases asincrónicas son que la maestra no está enseñando en vivo, pero es la oportunidad de que los estudiantes trabajen independientemente en alguna tarea que las maestras le den. Las maestras también durante ese tiempo que no está enseñando en vivo puede trabajar con niños individualmente o en grupos pequeños. Y también puede ser que les dé tareas en unas de las aplicaciones que tienen en la computadora donde ellos pueden ir y trabajar independientemente.
Thank you. Leo, we're ready for the next question.
Yep. Next one is Nicole.
Good evening. My daughter is a kindergartner at Marshall Street, so I think this question is probably for Mr. Skrzynski. So first part is sounds like the schedule for the spring, regardless if they're hybrid or virtual, is going to represent a big change for the kindergartners. I was just wondering if you can give us a date about when you're going to come out with the specific schedule for those parents. And I think a lot of us who work or have other obligations, our kindergartners need a lot of support from the parents when they're learning from home. So having a very specific schedule about when breaks are and when they're expected to be online is just so important for our sanity. So that's the one thing. And the other thing is, I just would love to hear a little bit about teacher training, because I think being a classroom teacher in a traditional setting is challenging, and being a classroom teacher in a virtual setting is challenging, but trying to do both at once is mind-blowingly challenging. So I'm just wondering about what kind of training and how much practice they're going to get before this goes live. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Subek, for coming out and joining us tonight. Yes, the teacher training piece, has certainly been something that individual buildings have really, done a lot with, as well as through the district. We're getting ready to do some teacher training coming up within the next couple of days. We do through the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, we do different training modules through there. So the teachers will be working on some of those training modules within the next couple of days, as well as on January 4th, the teachers will be working on some training modules again, to prepare themselves for the transition to this new model. And one of the things we like to kind of say is we're certainly building the airplane as we're flying it. And that certainly is true with this. None of the teachers have any experience with doing any of this, and to their credit, they've done such a phenomenal job partnering with our parents and families during this this virtual time, and I look for a continuation during the hybrid / virtual time as well. Moving forward, certainly to answer your first question, we are working through currently in our buildings. We are working through putting together a hybrid plan. And putting a team together and teams to work on different areas, where of the building, work on different areas of the classrooms, to prepare what we feel is going to be a really thorough and well-balanced hybrid program. So we've met multiple times as a team, and the buildings across the district have done the same thing. So we will be probably ready to roll this out to this faculty and staff, within the next week, possibly the first week that we come back after winter break. And then once we do that, at the different buildings, and Marshall Street being one of them, we will definitely communicate every single step of the way our hybrid program, our hybrid plan, as well as individual grade specific schedules will be presented to parents and families. So you do have plenty of time to prepare and plenty of time to get your schedules in order.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Thank you for answering my questions.
Sure.
So when we come back on the 5th, do we expect the schedule to be different or the same as it is now?
Well, we're coming back in different waves. So the if once again, as Dr. Williams presented earlier, the data supports when we're coming back. So our kindergarten will be in wave 3, so that would be the 3rd week of returning. So the schedule will be different, from the standpoint of now we have to take into consideration moving students to lunches, having those kind of different pieces and situations in the building. So the kindergarten schedule will look a little bit different. Once again, there will be certainly in-person pieces and components, as well as follow-up with our virtual students as well. So once we get our plan together and it is vetted by the entire staff, certainly, as I said, we will push that out to our parents and our families, and do something similar to this evening where we would do a Q&A with them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
La pregunta de la señora Nicole fue la siguiente: el horario de la escuela primaria se verá muy diferente y ella quería saber cuándo tendríamos ese horario disponible, especialmente para los padres con niños en primaria, en kinder. Ella necesita suficiente tiempo para prepararse porque los niños de kinder necesitan bastante asistencia de los padres. La respuesta es de que están trabajando las escuelas como equipo para tener este horario listo. Se piensa que el horario se le presentará a los maestros y a la facultad la semana de regreso después de las vacaciones de inviernos, y se les dará suficiente tiempo a los padres en tener el horario nuevo para que se preparen con suficiente tiempo. También la segunda pregunta fue en cuestiones de entrenamiento y la práctica para los maestros, porque ella dice que es muy desafiante enseñar, puede ser en virtual o en persona, pero en este caso se les pide a los maestros que enseñen de las dos formas, en persona, pero también a distancia. El director dice que los maestros en los próximos días van a ser entrenados y van a tener práctica con el Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, y van a estar teniendo suficiente entrenamiento para que puedan enseñar de las dos maneras, y los maestros han estado haciendo un excelente trabajo.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Kristen.
Hi, my son goes to Paul Fly. Hi, Mr. Smith. I guess my two questions are, one is, what exactly are maskless breaks? Where would they occur? What does that mean? As well as my second question is, gosh forbid a teacher were to fall ill and have to stay home. Would they be teaching from home, or would they be, would there be a substitute for the children, both obviously hybrid and virtual at the time?
Mr. Smith, do you want to take
Yes,
this?
no, good. Well, good evening, Ms. Gallagher. Good to see you. Well, I hear you, I should say. I can't see you. You can see me. All right.
Yes.
So the first question was regarding maskless breaks. So we just talked about that today in our meeting. So students will have maskless breaks right now at breakfast when they're eating, where they're not wearing a mask, obviously. At lunch and at recess, they'll be given a maskless break where they will not need to wear their masks at all. So I hope that answers your question to some extent, whether or not.
Well, 100%. I was hoping that that was the case only during eating times, but I just wanted to confirm that.
Right. Yeah. And then the second part of your question is what would happen if a teacher would fall ill and be sick. Our plan would be to have a sub cover the classroom, and that the teacher would not need to, I mean, if a teacher is sick, especially with COVID or something, that they would take a traditional sick day, and then we would have coverage to cover the classroom. So.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Yep, that was it. Easy
All right.
peasy. Thanks.
All right. All right.
La señora Kristen de Paul Fly es madre de un niño de Paul Fly. La pregunta es la siguiente. Ella quería saber exactamente qué significaban descansos sin mascarillas. El señor Smith, el director de la escuela, dice que los niños tendrán oportunidades de no tener sus máscaras durante el desayuno, el almuerzo y durante el recreo. La segunda pregunta de la señora Kristen es de que si, ni que Dios lo quiera, un maestro presenta síntomas y está enfermo, que si se le va a requerir enseñar desde su casa o si van a tener los estudiantes un sustituto maestro. La respuesta es que cuando un maestro se enferme, se les va a respetar sus días de enfermedad y la escuela va a tener sustitutos, maestros sustitutos disponibles para que se encarguen de las clases durante ese tiempo de enfermedad de los maestros.
And if I may add, because each building will be different for recess depending on the space. So, at Paul Fly or Coleman, if they have larger space and, they can do their social distancing activities, the kids may have longer mask breaks during recess. But if we're at a school with a smaller schoolyard, the kids will definitely have a shorter mask break. So it will vary from building to building, and if we can keep the kids safely distanced in order to make that happen.
La doctora Williams quiere recalcar de que cada escuela es diferente y en cuanto al recreo sin mascarillas va a depender de el espacio que tiene la escuela en el patio, en el estacionamiento. Si es una escuela que tiene un espacio pequeño, el recreo sería corto. Si es una escuela que tiene un espacio más amplio, entonces se les permitirá a los estudiantes tener un recreo un poco más extendido sin sus máscaras.
Thank you. Leo, we're ready for the next one.
The next one up is Yen.
Hello. I have two kids at Paul Fly. I just had a very simple question for busing. Are we going to get a bus schedule soon? And are we kind of locked into taking the bus, or can we have an option of potentially driving our kids to school?
The transportation rosters will be developed after we receive all of our surveys and develop that data and organize that data. Are you referring to using both means of transportation, or, you know, I started on the bus, I would prefer to have my child,
Yes.
prefer to take to school.
That's
So
number
if-
2. Go ahead.
So yes, if you start on the bus and you don't like it, and then you want to say, okay, I no longer need transportation, you can definitely cancel transportation and drive your child to school and pick your child up.
Okay, thank you.
La pregunta que tuvo la señora Jen de Paul Fly dice que en cuanto a horarios del autobús, que cuando ellos tendrán la información de la asignación de autobús. La doctora Williams dice que esto se va a asignar una vez que tengamos todas las respuestas de las encuestas que se le mandó a los padres, y el departamento de autobús va a trabajar en la asignación de autobús para cada familia que va a regresar a la escuela. Y también la pregunta fue que si ella comienza, sus estudiantes comienzan usando el transporte escolar, que si ella cambia de opinión, que si ella puede cancelar el autobús y dejar a sus hijos llevarlos y traerlos ella misma. La respuesta es sí. Después de que ustedes tengan la asignación de autobús, si prefieren cancelarlo, se les permite cancelar el autobús y pueden ustedes proveer el transporte de sus hijos.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Andrea.
Will there be an after-school program?
Which school?
I think it's Cole Manor.
Dr. Punker, do you know
My daughter's in first grade.
Are you referring to aftercare such as ESCC?
Correct, yes.
I did actually, several parents had made that inquiry, and I did check with our business office about that. And they said that at this time they are planning to have an after-school program, but I do not have details yet. However, once that's confirmed and we receive details, we would share that out with all the parents.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
La pregunta de la señora Andrea, ella tiene estudiantes en la escuela de Cole Manor. Su pregunta es que si habrá un programa de cuidado después de la escuela para los niños. La respuesta es sí, habrá el programa de ESCC. Sin embargo, todavía no tenemos los detalles, pero una vez que se tengan los detalles, se va a compartir con los padres.
All right, next up we have Norhan.
Hello, good evening. I have two kids that goes to Whitehall Elementary School, and actually I have 3 questions. First question is, are you still planning to send students to different rooms for specials? And if it's yes, what's the plan to keep the rooms clean between classes? Because it's gonna be like many students go to same room. And my second question is, how can you provide instrument classes, like a recorder or something like that, that needs the mouth not covered, like, you know, like recorder class or something with Mr. Patty? So what's the plan for that? Because my kids already have that classes going on right now, but of course it's virtually. And my last question is, does the face shield accept it or not? Thank you.
Dr. Poncari, what if you take specials? I will take face shields. Would anyone like to take music, or I can
talk about music as well.
Okay.
Sure. So in regard to specials, students will be staying in their classroom, as we had said earlier, to limit the movement throughout the building, and the special area teachers will be coming into the classroom and delivering the lesson in the classroom. So the students do not have to move, and the students are not, as you said, several classes using one room. So it'll be a push-in model. And as far as instrumental type classes, my understanding is that, again, we're following guidelines that the CDC is putting out. I know with some instruments, they do have, and speaking to our instrumental teacher, it's different than Mr. Patty, that they have a sock or something that they put on the end of certain instruments that you blow into, and they're not shared. And then also it would depend upon spacing, whether it's going to be smaller groups or how that's going to work. So that's something that the principals are working out with the instrumental teachers, making sure that the proper guidelines for safety are followed.
And for masks, we are looking for students to wear a cloth mask to cover their nose and mouth.
Oh, okay. So face shield is not acceptable.
And if they're wearing a face shield, they should also have the cloth mask with also.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
La señora Noran tenía las siguientes preguntas. La primera fue que si los estudiantes van a cambiar de salón de clases cuando tengan las áreas especiales. La respuesta es no, no van a cambiar de salón de clase para disminuir el tráfico de los estudiantes. Los maestros van a ir al salón de clases de ellos para darle las áreas especiales. La segunda pregunta fue que ¿qué se va a hacer en cuestiones de las clases de instrumento? Por lo menos como los instrumentos que se tocan con la boca, que si los niños van a ser permitidos quitarse sus mascarillas para tomar esas clases de instrumento. La doctora Williams explicó de que los instrumentos, la directora explicó que los instrumentos de ese tipo quizás se le va a tapar la parte del frente del instrumento, pero que hay unos procedimientos y unas pautas que ellos están investigando acerca de esos instrumentos y van a estar listos para cuando comiencen la escuela. La tercera era que si se les permite a los estudiantes ponerse el escudo en la cara. La doctora Williams explica que si el estudiante lleva un escudo, que en adición a ese escudo de cara, tiene que usar la mascarilla, que no pueden usar el escudo solamente, sino también la mascarilla.
Thank you. Leah, where are we? Are we on our last one or two? Or
We're on our last one. We had one put their hand down. So our last one is Amber.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. My daughter is in 3rd grade at Hancock Elementary School. Hi, Principal Vaught. I was wondering if, you could tell me what is going to happen. My daughter typically takes a van to school. I think she goes to a different elementary school than where we live technically sends to. So she gets vanned in instead of taking a bus, and there's only like 4 seats in the van. Will she be taking a bus? Will she be taking a van by herself?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for staying in line.
Hi.
We'll be able to give more details around transportation. Dr. Williams, I don't know if you want to chime in here based off of survey numbers. So we're still waiting for some families to complete their surveys. I can't imagine that if she was on a van, that she's now going to be on a bus. If anything, I think that would stay consistent. But Dr. Williams, if you would like to chime in.
Yes. So once we receive survey results, then the transportation department can work out the routes and the drivers and the vehicles and things like that. So if your child is assigned to a van, it is a strong possibility that your child will remain on a van. But again, depending on numbers and routes and, promoting social distancing, those are all new factors now.
Okay, and my last question is just, Can you help clarify which wave my child falls into? She's in third grade, but she is in the autistic support program. She spends her time with Mrs. McGuire in a typical classroom, but then she also drops out at periods to go to Miss Lawrence's classroom. Does she fall into wave 1, wave 2, wave 5?
She would be in wave 1.
Okay, so then what happens when she goes in? Will she spend time with Mrs. McGuire when the rest of the class is not there, or will she be with Miss Lawrence the whole time?
So depending on numbers, again, I don't want to give you any promises right now. She will spend a lot of the day with Miss Lawrence in the small group because of her needs. But again, we're still waiting on a little bit. I think we have 26 more families left before we share that plan out. But do know she'll be spending, say it again?
26%.
20. Oh, Hancock, we have 26 families left.
Oh, good. Awesome.
I'm like, wait a minute. You have updated data? We spent a lot of time reaching out to families this week. So we're really closing in on numbers. And so I don't want to make a promise that's untrue, but most of her time will be spent with Miss Lawrence due to her needs.
Okay, so she would just be there until wave 5 comes in and the rest of the third grade would return. And at that point, then she would just join that class again and adapt to whatever schedule the class implements.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Vaught. Sorry, I was wrong. I thought you were in the boat with me with 27% of the families.
26 families left.
Also, Mrs. Vaught, I don't know if the parent left, but just to remind her that we do have another meeting on Monday.
Yes.
And then we can address more of those questions. Okay. Leo, you said that was the last one? Okay. So at this time, we will conclude our parent meeting for the elementary level. Thank you so much to my panelists. You guys were amazing. Thank you to our parents. We appreciate you. We appreciate your partnership as we definitely navigate these uncharted waters and develop a plan that is going to keep our students safe, engaged, and healthy throughout this pandemic. So again, we will not transition until the data is in our favor to do so. My panelists, would you like to do you have any parting words? And then Mrs. Salazar Williams can translate and close us out.
I just want to say thank you to all of our parents and families for carving out the time this evening, spending a couple hours with us, and hearing about the hybrid program that we have rolling out in the school district, and your questions were fantastic. So parents and families, thank you.
I echo that.
Thank parents. Go ahead.
I echo that. I just want to shout out our Hancock family. Thank you for your flexibility, being patient with me as I get to meet all of you, and just appreciate you. We could not do this without you. It really takes a village, and we'll get through this 1 week at a time. So thanks again.
I also just wanted to say thank you to everyone that came out this evening and our Cole Manor families, and just to also remind families that if questions arise between now and when we do return, to please feel free to email me at any time or contact us via phone, and we will certainly do our best to get back to you with responses as soon as we possibly can. And have a great holiday season. Thank you.
And I would ditto to what my colleague said. And we hope you have a great holiday season. Be safe, be warm as the anticipated snowstorm of 2020 hits us, and just probably tomorrow night at this time. So be safe. Again, just what Dr. Poncari said, please reach out to us as principals. It's not a bother. We want to make sure we're fielding your questions well ahead of time, so you're not sitting on them. We want to help you and make you feel comfortable. It's our job. So you're our priority. So please reach out to us. Thank you.
And thank you to Mrs. Salazar Williams. If you would like to recap that. And Leo, we cannot do this without you. Greatly appreciate you.
Muchísimas gracias a todos los padres que tomaron el tiempo de estar aquí con nosotros esta noche, por acompañarnos y por su paciencia y todo el apoyo que nos están brindando. La doctora Williams recalcó de que estamos desarrollando un plan que funcione para todos, pero que a la misma vez sea un plan que nos mantengan todos sanos y salvos y seguros. Los directores, cada uno, les dio las gracias por sus preguntas, por su apoyo y que si tienen alguna pregunta adicional, que por favor los contacten a ellos y a las escuelas directamente. Muchísimas gracias y que tengan una linda noche.
Thank you. Have a good night.